Hey, it's John, and welcome to the interview. Today, I am joined by Jonathan Kaiser, who is the founder and thought leader behind Kaiser, the largest commercial real estate advisory board in the state of Arizona. He also has a new book coming out, I think it's around July here, right, Jonathan? Something like July, June, July, called You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win. You don't have to be ruthless to win. That's the new book that's coming out. And today I'm excited to dig into Jonathan a little bit and share and talk a little bit about his journey as a business leader and some of his lessons learned, mistakes made, and all that good stuff.
Many of those.
So let's go ahead and jump in. Tell us a little bit about your background, Jonathan. Give us the Reader's Digest version, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And
no worries.
You have an extraordinary show, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So I have a very unique background that I think very few of your listeners have had. I was a Christian missionary kid, and I grew up part of my life in Papua New Guinea. A lot of people don't even know where that is. It's over by Australia, in Indonesia. And I was taught from a very early age to love and serve and give and help, and that was what was pounded into my head. But there was only one problem. When we got back from Papua New Guinea, I realized really quickly that we were really poor, and I didn't like being poor. So to me, I associated service and helping others and giving and all the things that my parents taught me with ending up in the poorhouse. And so at an early age, I decided I'm going to be successful. I'm not going to do what my parents did. I'm going to figure out a way to make a lot of money because I want the stuff that other people have that I grew up not having. So I went to UCLA for school. I was going to be an attorney. My favorite professor, you'll be miserable. I said, well, crap, I've been a political science major. It's the end of my junior year. Whatever. And he said, do something more entrepreneurial. And I had no idea what entrepreneurial meant at that time. This is before a lot of the personality profiling. And so I had a buddy of mine suggested to me, he said, hey, jet someday, do commercial real estate. Because I wanted to be rich and I wanted to make, but I realized really quickly, wow, a ruthless industry. This is not of heart. Everybody's scratching and looking over their shoulder. And I said, if this is what it takes to be successful, I'm going to be that because I don't want to be poor like my parents. So I became the ruthless prick that parents dreaded, and whatever it took to be successful in a ruthless industry. So 14 years ago, I was misaligned with how my parents taught me, but I felt trapped, John. I felt like wanting to be successful. I actually liked the general industry. I liked doing real estate deals. I thought they were interesting and fun, and I liked meeting with people, but I hated the feeling that I had to behave these certain ways to create success for myself. So I go to this industry conference in Miami, Florida in 2004, and this guy gets up and he starts talking, and this guy is a stud, like very successful guy, and he starts talking about this idea of success by helping others succeed. And I'm looking at him from the back of the room, and I thought I was just going to a general networking breakout session, and I'm listening to him, and I'm thinking, this guy can't be for real. And so I go up afterwards and I say, hey man, I'm sure that's just a cool shit to sound great, but there's no way you're actually succeeding by helping others succeed. He said, no, Jonathan. He said, that's how I've built my practice. And the more I help others, the more I have success myself. And I said, how's that even possible? I mean, I've been in commercial real estate for a long time now. How have I never heard of anybody doing this kind of philosophy? So, a conversation with him, he became a good friend of mine to this day. He ended up introducing me to someone else. I have all these conversations. And I eventually say, okay, if this is possible, and if I can act this business in a way where I'm not constantly having to go against my values, go against the way my parents raised me and have trouble sleeping at night, if I can actually serve others and help others and love others, then I'm going to do that. And so the last question I had was, I go, okay, So if this really works so great, why is no one else doing it? And the answer was, Jonathan, it's because it takes too long.
Hmm.
And I said, well, what do you mean by too long? They said, well, it takes about 5 years. And I said, wait, what do you mean by that? He said, well, you're going to be laughed at, mocked, broke for 5 years doing this philosophy. But after that time, created a platform of long-term success. And he likened it to hunting versus farming. He said, today you're hunting. You're shooting, skinning, killing, eating. Then you're going to be going to planting. Like I have a tree in my backyard here in Scottsdale. That's a lemon tree. And when I first planted that thing, for a while I said, is this thing ever going to yield fruit? Today, it's like the biggest nuisance. I have more lemons. Anybody listening to this that needs lemons, call me and I'll give you some. We have more lemons than we know what to do with. And that's the philosophy underpinning my strategy today, which is this idea of serving, helping, loving, nurturing, and letting those relationships over time yield back. So I decided to do it. I came back in 2005, threw my business plan away of traditional sales and marketing that I'd been doing for years, loving, serving, helping, and giving, and doing everything I could to serve people. And people thought I lost my mind. I mean, I was National Rookie of the Year for Grubb and Ellis, and now all of a sudden I'm out in the community joining nonprofit boards, asking people, how can I help you, helping people find jobs, helping people find doctors, getting their kids internships, helping other people get connected, helping other people find business, and doing that for years and years and years, and not getting discouraged, although sometimes I was discouraged, but not letting that discouragement overwhelm me, and staying and remaining committed to this idea that, wow, over time, this is going to be successful. And after 5 years, just like you predicted, I started getting some big referrals. That gave me, John, more to help others with. And in 2012, I'd gone from laughingstock in the company I was at, top producer, and I was frustrated because I felt like this selfless culture that I was creating within my team was having a lot of challenges scaling within the confines of a ruthless culture at a traditional firm. And so I had an epiphany in 2012 where I realized that what I was doing was bigger than me, and it was bigger than my team, and that I'd stumbled across ancient secrets that if I could show other people how to do, could create extraordinary success for themselves as well. Because the crazy part about what I'm doing is everybody knows that you can do good. Everybody knows that. We're taught that. We teach our kids that. But there's this idea in ruthless industries, particularly in my industry of commercial real estate brokerage, that good guys can't win. And so by demonstrating that you could create extraordinary success while living the principles that we all believe at our fundamental level are true, I'd stumbled across something that had the opportunity to have an impact much greater and bigger than me and much greater than Arizona. So I took the scary risk of venturing out and starting my own firm and rolled it all and put it all on black. And I said, we're going to change the world. We're going to change how commercial real estate industry brokerage is done forever. And we're going to show that you don't have to be ruthless to win and that you can create extraordinary success by helping others. And took all my life savings and poured it into creating a company. And, when I had the epiphany moment, I decided to make a list of all the things that I wished were true about commercial real estate. Right? First, I made a list of all the things I hated. That was a long list. And then I made a list of all the things that in a perfect environment would be true. And then I created 15 core operating principles that we have built the culture of our firm around. So today, we're one of the largest firms of our kind in the country. We're one of the fastest growing in the country. My book, which is titled You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win by Jonathan Kaiser, drops in probably July of this year, of 2019. And we're starting the Kaiser Institute to train and empower other leaders on how they can do the same thing for themselves. Because if you think about it, this has a much broader impact opportunity beyond just commercial real estate brokerage. There's a lot of industries that are ruthless, right? My book is not even necessarily for commercial real estate brokers, and I want them to read it, of course. but it's really for business leaders as a whole to say, if I can do this, if I can have extraordinary success through selfless service in one of the most ruthless industries in the world, you can too. And that's the whole philosophy.
Yeah, wow, that's I think you answered my first 5 or 6 questions there along that way.
Sorry about that.
No, that was good though. I had to let you keep going there because you were on a roll there for sure. So wow, what a journey then. So you were a bit of a shark. Just to recap, you were a bit of a shark in the early days, kind of following the herd of kind of cutthroat business practices or whatever you want to call them in the commercial real estate industry.
Yes.
You saw this gentleman talk who was already successful. That shifted something in you. And from there, you basically rolled the dice and went all in on joining boards and nonprofits and helping others. I mean, were you just like calling up random people, like, can I help you? Or like, what did that look like in practicality?
In practicality, it was everybody that I would meet with. I mean, I already knew plenty of people at that point, right? I'd been in business for 6 years, 7 years. And so I just started asking everyone that I met, I just said, how can I help you? And they would usually answer like, what do you mean? How
Yeah.
Thinking I was trying to
What's
sell
your
them
motive?
something. And I would just say, no, there's got to be something in your life. The number one thing that I found, John, is that people want to get better connected. So that's what I spent the majority of my time doing, is helping connect other people. People always want more business, helping them get business. And then the family things can be some of the most impactful things. But I would join any organization that would have me, and I would just say, okay, I don't have a lot of money because I'm reinventing myself, but I have sweat here. Let me just get involved and serve and help. And so I would see what the organizations needed. A lot of times they needed memberships. I'd go help them find members, or they'd need sponsors. So I'd go help them get sponsors. And what I was doing was I was demonstrating to them in real time what selfless service looked like, because I'd never asked for anything in return, and I wasn't obviously being paid for this. And it enabled me to create some extraordinary relationships with people that got to see me firsthand living what I espouse. I think a lot of people miss that. They're good at talking, but their walk doesn't add up to what comes out of their mouth. And so, and some of them can be so extraordinarily touching. For example, one act of selfless service that I did was, I asked a guy what I could do to help him, and he said, I want to learn how to be a better dad. That's a cool thing. And so me and my team were talking about it, because that's another thing we do, is we collaborate on this stuff and try to figure out how we can best help people. I was talking to my team about it, and this was early on in Kaiser's. I mean, we started in 2013. This was probably 2014. It was in the beginning. And we said, you know what? He's already a good dad. He just needs to be acknowledged for being a good dad. So we did like this covert operation where we got in touch with his wife. His wife brought the kids. We met them at a park, and we just took a simple little iPhone video of his wife and his kids speaking to him about how extraordinary of a dad he is, and how extraordinary of a husband and father he is. And then we did a little just minor cleanup and sent it to him. And he was so touched. And he called me after he received it, and he was crying. And he just said, this is the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. I can't believe that someone would do this for me. Now, do we do that to try to get something from him? No. We did that to serve. But that guy's a fan for life, right? That guy is a friend of mine, and he understands that we really help. And if he ever needs anything, he knows who to call. He picks up the phone and calls me. And so as a result, in an industry that's known for sharky behavior, for predatorial, everybody trying to take and look out for number one, at the end of the day, people want to work with someone that they trust. And so you generate trust by showing them that you're willing to go above and beyond for them without getting anything in return. But again, this is the long game, right? This is not the instant gratification play, and that's why most people don't do it.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think the first word it sounds like, so you shifted, you started doing these kind of activities. I assume, did you have any idea like of who these people were? Or was it just random people, or was it people who had influence?
No, it was people that I knew. And I always for me, it was about impact. It was like, who is the person that if I serve, I could have the biggest impact with,
Right.
right? And so it was, as I grew this, everybody that came to me, I would have, you only have so much time.
Yes.
So you have to be strategic. If you've read Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, they say that, they categorize people into 3 categories: givers, matchers, takers. And the interesting thing about the book, sorry if I'm ruining it for everybody, but the interesting thing about the book is they say givers are both the least successful and the most successful on the success spectrum. And the book answers the question, why? And it's the people that are the least successful can never say no, and the people that are the most successful are strategic. So I would be strategic with who I was serving and who I was dedicating my time to, but I wasn't doing it as a sales tactic. I was doing it to truly serve them and to show them my heart.
Right. And I think you touched on the other thing is time, because at this point you were working with another firm, right? And you were trying to climb the ladder there, and you're trying this whole new approach of like just throwing out any kind of ask and just serve. How did you have the time for this? I mean, because that's, one thing is obviously it's great to join a bunch of boards or do a bunch of stuff, but you also have to work and feed the family or whatever, like those kind of things. So, I mean, how did you find the time for all of this?
Great question. Yeah. I mean, it's an investment it's an investment in time. It's an investment in resources. I worked extraordinarily hard. It was like I had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
But here's what I tell people, because a lot of times when people hear my story, they're like, great, Jonathan, that's an inspiring story. No chance in hell I'm ever going to do that. Right. That sounds awful. Go broke for 5 years. No thanks. So what I tell people is, look, it's actually pretty simple. You're already going to have people that you interact with on a day-to-day business in your business life, whether that's clients, whether that's people that you work with, whether that's partners in the community. And all you need to do is bring a spirit of how can I help you, of selfless service to that interaction versus thinking about what you can extract. And if you just make that one fundamental shift, you'll be astonished with how fast you can dial up the success spectrum, because what everybody's doing, John, is everybody's looking out for number one. And it just ekes through in conversations. People pretend to be interested in the other person, but really it's only until the other person shuts up enough so they can talk about themselves. And if you stop worrying about yourself and you just focus on what does that other person need? What's in their world? If you take the time to just think, okay, doing whatever normal business you and I are going to do right now, what are some takeaways of ways that I can truly serve this person in an above and beyond way? That's the magic. That's what creates extraordinary success for individuals and organizations. And that's what we teach as part of the Kaiser Institute.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I think another book I read, Judy Robinette, I think she has a book called 550 100, like how to, be a networker, and it's not just a strategy. I look at it as like friends first, then everything else kind of thing. But, she talks a lot about, the power of being intentional, and one of my favorite questions I got from her, at the end of any new conversation like this or anything is, how can I help you? Are you looking for anything, any connections you need or services you're looking for, anything like that? And I find that often leads to really good things, right? With people and connecting and being a power connector with people, and just making connections. I really love that piece. So,
may I challenge a little bit of what you just said?
Sure.
Here's what I think is the difference between, and I haven't read that book, so I'm not speaking to her in general, but this is what I hear a lot of, which is focus on the people that are going to serve you back. And I actually have a different philosophy. I remember I wrote about this in the book. One time I had a meeting where I explained what we were doing to these executives, and they said, I love what you're doing. It's exactly what we're up to. And I said, well, tell me more. And they said, well, everybody that helps us, we try to help them more. And I said, no offense, but you're actually saying polar opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying most people are waiting for someone else to help them first. Most people are waiting for there to be a baseline of a relationship. Most people are waiting for some sort of guarantee and security that they're going to get something out of whatever they expend into it. My philosophy is give first. lead where other people are waiting, sitting back for you to lead. If all it takes to unlock a relationship is one party to go first, why are we waiting for someone else to go first?
Sure.
Let's go first. And in fact, some of my best relationships are people that other people wrote off. They said, this person's a taker. This person is not interested in a relationship. My experience is that 95% of people are actually just sick and tired of being sold to and having people be self-interested around them. And if you actually show a spirit of selflessness for them and go above and beyond for them, even the hardest nuts to crack, like the biggest prospect that you just can't unlock and you want to unlock them, you want to get their business, the way that we do that at Kaiser is we serve. What's one example of that? Let's say that we were competing for a piece of business and we didn't win that piece of business. Guess who we want to serve the most? The people that we just didn't get their business.
Right.
And they go, oh my gosh, you guys are really the real deal. And then guess what? They go to a different company, they evaluate it again, and they bring us to the table. Some of my very best clients, my very best relationships are the people that most people would just reject and say, not interested, whatever. And we say, no, we want to double down.
So give us an example of that then, because what you just said there, was interesting. Like let's say you have a discussion with someone. Well, let's say what is your, I guess, for lack of a better word here, prospecting process? Like if let's say someone comes to you, do you just like give and give and give and give up front with nothing, coming back or no contract or no nothing? And then if they don't want to work with you, you kind of continue to kind of love on them and things like that until they kind of realize that you're the real deal, or you guys actually care about human beings?
Yeah, no, it's I love that question. I don't think I've ever been asked that well. So here's what we do that I think is the unique differentiator is, number one, if we're at the table and we haven't already served the people and there's a piece of business, we're too late. I mean, it's our job to be serving people if there's any need. So they already know by the time there's something there, right? Number one. Number two is it's long game. So I care more relationship with the individual, the relationship with the person, than about any piece of. So it's never about the hand. It's about, is there an opportunity for us to serve? How can we go above and beyond? So every situation is different. My mindset is always, what does this person need? How can I help them? And that within the context is of, there's not unlimited time. You do the best you can with the time you have and serve them in whatever way you can. And you make it be a no pressure situation. You say, if I can help you, I will. If not, I'll help you find the person that can. And even if that's a competitor, I've helped that didn't want to work with us for one reason or another for themselves on an alternative.
You helped them find an alternative? Okay.
We helped them find an alternative because if you're really all about, you're not concerned about the piece of business. And so what I'm trying to explain to people is it's not that it's not that I don't have a business to run. It's that I really do get that at the end of the day, it's all about the relationship, and the relationship trumps everything. If you focus on the relationship and you love and serve over the long term, they're probably going to become your client because nobody else is doing that.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So at this point, you started doing this. You started over time, somehow made it through the 5-year period, and then it started to just what people. You're still working for this company, right? This other firm at the time. People were starting to just, hey, you should go talk to Jonathan. Go talk to Jonathan. Go talk to Jonathan. And you're like, holy cow! All of a sudden, you're getting high profile referrals from people.
Yeah, and it was extraordinary because I was used to having to pitch and persuade. Yeah. PowerPoint decks. It was like, Jonathan, remember when you helped my sister with this? Oh, she's so happy at her job. I really appreciate that. Hey, by the way, my company needs to move their office space. Can you help me? Yeah, I can help you.
There was no salesmanship, or you don't have to be influential. It was all, it's funny how relationships trump everything, right? Like you don't need to be Mr. Salesperson or overcome a bunch of objections or things that you were trained as salespeople to do, right? It's a totally different thing. Like, oh, sure, I'll help you. Sold.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive to the traditional sales culture that you and I were raised in, John. Yeah. I mean, it's the it feels irresponsible. It feels wrong. It feels like you should have a spreadsheet indicating what your ROI is on every action. And the reality is if you're really in it for the long term, relationships trump everything, and relationships are built on service. I'm not an irrational guy. I have one of the largest firms of my kind in the country that's fast growing. We do well. We're not in the non. We are successful, but how are we successful? Because everybody knows, not everybody, we're not perfect, but almost everybody knows that we're in it for them. And if they need anything, they call us. And oh, by the way, if something doesn't go right, commercial real estate's a crazy industry. Stuff happens. If things don't go right, I'm standing right there to fix it, right? If things don't go well, I'm not running for the hills like other brokers. I'm saying, I'm in this with you. How do we resolve this? How do we make it better? And so they know that no matter what happens, they have a partner that's with them versus just somebody trying to make a fail, which is what most salespeople are known as. And so just the differentiating factor of being committed to doing the right thing. I always say, treat people like you treat your mom, assuming you love your mom, of course. Treat people like you treat your mom. If your mom had a problem, would you go, not my problem, talk to my attorney? No. You'd go figure it out and fix it and empathize and try to help, right? If your mom needed something, you'd help them out. So if you treat everybody like your mom, things over time, and like for me, I used to try to convince everybody how great I was, how I was amazing, and everybody, because I was. Now, I spend all my time trying to help other people, and people walk around saying how great I am. It's the craziest thing. It's like the less I focus on me and the more I focus on others, the more comes my way. And that's what I want the world to. I have a dream, John. I have a dream of a world where people selflessly help each other, regardless of personal gain, understanding that it's in their own personal best interest to do so. We get a lot of people that'll call us and say, hey, Jonathan, I know I don't have a deal for you today. I'm 5 years into an office lease, into an industrial lease, whatever it is. But I just got this operating expense bill. And we didn't do the deal, right? So I didn't get a commission on the front end. It's just a person saying, can you help? Somebody said that you could help. And I'll dive into that lease. I'll go, oh, don't worry about the transaction. I'll dive into that lease. I'll do the analysis. I'll tell them where they can improve. If there's something I can do to try to make it better, I'll pick up the phone and call the landlord or whatever. And they're like, what are you doing this for? I go, this is what we are. Who do you think they're going to want to call when their lease does come up?
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's that long-term thinking. Most people are too busy thinking, is there a deal in it for me right now?
Is it really is it a scarcity thing? Is it just that people need to make money and then they get in this scarcity mindset of like, I need this now, or is it just programming from years of how it is, or what is it? What is that thing? Why aren't more people doing that?
Ooh, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
I have my theories. One theory is we train, and rational creatures would assume that output necessitates an input. And so we're just trained. We train our MBA students that way. You look at smart CFOs, and they're trained to say, what's the ROI on each and every activity? And if it's not, I remember at my old firm, I'd say, hey, I got to join this organization. And they'd be like, there's no direct ROI. I can't pencil that. The answer's, and I'm not saying throw responsibility to the wind either. I mean, you have to be smart, but if there's an opportunity for you to serve people that are people that this is what I always tell people, if you can help a group of people or an individual that may or may either today or in the future be in a position to hire you at some level, that is what I consider fertile grounds for service. Now, could I walk down the street and just ask everybody that I walk by, hey, how can I help you?
Sure.
Yeah, I actually might try that someday, and maybe I'll get on the news and whatever, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the world of people that you're already going after, that you're already having conversations with, just try to figure out how to best help them. Get in their world. What do they need? What are their challenges? What are their problems? Listening to them. I have so many conversations where people are just asking, or I'm asking them questions, and they go, oh my gosh, like I just had a meeting. I just right before this had a meeting, and the lady who's a senior executive says, I've never had anybody ask me that question. That's an amazing question. Well, it's not that I'm an amazing guy answering them. I'm just paying attention and I'm listening and I'm trying to understand and I'm looking for ways to serve. And it just opens up possibilities with people.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I love how you say it and frame it, because that's something we all need a reminder of at times too, or just a shift, right? A mental shift. Okay, so you did this, and so then finally you left this job, and now you've launched Kaiser, which is your own commercial real estate firm, right?
Yep.
And took those same principles and ingrained those into the company. And it seems like as a result, it's really taking off. Did it take a while to get going, or because you had made all those connections at that point, it just kind of took off? Or what were the first years like for that?
It was extraordinary, John. When I did this, I thought that I assumed that about 80% of the population would say I was a nut job, but that about 20% of people would really resonate with what we're doing. I found it to be the exact opposite. I think there's such a need out there for people that are authentically trying to help others. And to me, it's so simple that it almost is crazy to me that I have to explain it, but I'm gonna do that because I think it's so powerfully and important, but I think it gets lost in the simplicity of it. At the end of the day, people hire people that they trust. Trust is something that does not come out of an amazing presentation. Trust is earned. The easiest way to earn trust is by showing others that you care about them. The easiest way to show others you care about them is by doing something when there's nothing in it for you to serve them. So all I'm really doing is serving as many people as I can, knowing that 80% of the time, somehow that's going to come back to me. But I'm not doing it for the output or the input of it. I'm doing it because I enjoy serving. You asked about our business model. Our business model is very simple. We don't cold call. Every commercial real estate firm I know, they built their business on cold calling. We're a referral-only company. We're people telling people. I don't have to have a sales force. Now, that said, I got people that come in and say what we do and all that, but I'm not in a direct sales business like every other firm out there. Why? Because I spend, and my team spends 3 to 4x time, energy, creativity, etc., that our competitors do on each and every project. So we blow people away, and they pick up the phone, call their 3 best friends, and say, that Jonathan Kaiser guy was unbelievable. There wasn't even a deal in it for him, and he did this huge analysis for me and fixed a problem for me. Don't you have a problem too? Oh, yeah, we do. Call him. And so then the phone starts to ring, and people go, man. And then the really cool part is you help people enough, they start putting their own ass on the line to try to get you a piece of business. I've had people that threaten to quit their companies if the company didn't hire me. That's crazy.
Wow. That's an advocate there, an advocate, a passionate advocate.
Right? But that comes from them saying, I trust this guy. He's not going to screw me over. He's going to be there. He's going to do a good job. And he's going to make sure that the right thing is done by the organization. So it all comes down to trust. The ultimate goal for Kaiser is to be the most trusted brand in the world, where we create a certification process as part of the Kaiser Institute to say, you are now certified as a culture ambassador, someone who can go into an organization and help instill this selfless leadership culture that we espouse. And so at the end of the day, that reinforces the message. You hire people that you trust, and trust ultimately comes down to selfless service.
Wow. Very well said. Yeah. And this Kaiser Institute, just as a quick side note, is a leadership training company. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's hard to get into.
Okay.
We call it extraordinary accountability or extreme accountability, which is hard to get, easy to lose, not cheap, and it's real. So if you have a Kaiser certified person, you know what you're getting, and it becomes in the future becomes a competitive advantage for individuals to say, put on the resume, I'm Kaiser certified, and people are like, ooh, I want that culture warrior inside. And then on the flip side, we're gonna have organizations again, this is still in development. This hasn't even been launched yet, but we're going to have organizations that are going to be Kaiser certified organizations. So exciting stuff to come.
That sounds exciting. All right, so let's shift gear to you specifically and kind of take a peek into your life. Then you're a high performing guy and you get a lot of stuff done. So, what is your typical day? Kind of, 1 minute version of what your typical day looks like.
Sure. So I have 4 kids. So being a dad to me is a huge priority. I usually get up my alarm goes off at 5:15. I stumble out of bed, get myself ready, and head I usually do spin in the mornings. I like to hike as well, but I'll do some sort of workout in the morning. Come home, scramble, because now I got to get the kids to school. I take my kids to school. My favorite part of the day is the drive to school, because we have the personal I am statements that we've created for our family. And so we all say them together. Mm-hmm. And then each kid does their own personal creation of who they're creating themselves to be into the world. And then I do mine. And then I do a little small coaching. One of the segments, I haven't figured out the name, but it's something like a guy drives his kids to school, and it's me videoing the kind of conversations I have with my kids. So I do that. Then I head into the office. I mean, in commercial real estate, as a leader of a company, my days are all over the place, usually filled with meetings or podcasts like this, or whatever, speaking gigs. And then I usually try to get home in time for dinner. And then we'll do, like yesterday, we'd walk the dogs to the park. And the other initiative I'm launching is called Kaiser Kids. And it's storytelling, kind of a cross between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings for kids, and weaving the Kaiser 15 core operating principles throughout that in a cool storytelling. And so at night before the kids go to bed, I'll tell more of the story and record that, and then we're turning that into books. And then I spend time with the love of my life, Susanna, and I try to get to bed at a reasonable hour. I'm a pretty simple guy. Yeah. I don't, on my way to spin in the mornings, I'm doing I'm creating myself, and I'm listening to books. It's about a 20-minute drive both ways, so I get some good meditation time. And it's just every day is a little bit different. And on the weekends, I like to relax and be a dad and go to football and baseball and basketball games. And I consider myself an intentionally imbalanced person. I love to do what I do, building a company and organization, and I love to be a dad. And there's really not a lot of time for much else, and I like it that way.
It's beautiful, man. I love that. What are you currently reading, or maybe you're listening to it? It sounds like on the go, but what are you consuming right now?
Well, I love books. My favorite book that I've read in a long, long time is called The Way of Mastery, and it's a very, very cool book. It's a big blue book, and by Sean.
Who was the author? Sorry, it cut out for a sec.
It's an organization, and anyways, there's some interesting pieces in it. It's not like I take, one of the things I find is that people throw out the baby with the bathwater with books. Like if they don't believe everything in the book, then none of it could be true. And I just don't have that philosophy. I like to pick the nuggets out of anything. So I don't necessarily agree with the underlying of everything he says, but wow, there's such brilliance in it. It's my 4th or 5th time going through this book, and it really teaches you how to love what is, be at peace with what comes at you, full acceptance. And the chapter 3 on forgiveness is by far the best thing on forgiveness I've ever read, and it involves self-forgiveness as well. So I like things that grow my mind. I used to read a ton of business strategy books. Really what consumes me these days is self-awareness kind of reads. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. Amazing book. That's a book you can't read less than 5 times as well.
What was the book again?
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. Some of my other favorite books are Never Eat Alone. Never Eat Alone was the book that put me on the course of what I'm at now, and Keith Ferrazzi's become a personal friend. Conscious Capitalism, my friend John Mackey with Whole Foods.
Yep.
That's an amazing, amazing book, and I'm very involved in the conscious capitalism movement, and that's an extraordinary movement that started by Raj and by John being willing to be brave and put it forward.
Beautiful. Yep. Very good. So what do you most
there's one more book that
okay.
if you haven't read, this is an amazing one, which is You Are Not So Smart. Have you ever read You Are Not So Smart?
I haven't read that one.
Oh, that book. Once you read that book, you feel kind of dumb. You're like, man, my life has been programmed for me by my subconscious brain, and I didn't even realize it.
Sure. Yeah. No, lots of good reading now. I'll be busy for another month here, but appreciate you sharing those. So we had the Way of Mastery as one of your favorite. Who was the author of that one?
Shanti Cristo.
Shanti?
It's an organization. It's not a person's
Oh,
name.
it's an organization. I'm sorry, I missed that. Cristo. Okay. And then we have, what is it? Write the Habit of Being Yourself?
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza.
Never Eat Alone.
Yeah.
And You're Not So Smart. Yep.
You Are Not So Smart. Yep.
All right. Sounds good. What are you most proud of in your life so far? Getting real granular on you.
Proud of my kids.
Yep. That's a common response.
I'm proud of all the people that I've been able to work with and that are out serving and loving in the community. I mean, I couldn't do this by myself. So I've trained a bunch of other people how to do this, and watching them gives me extraordinary joy and a sense of accomplishment. I'm proud of being up to something that actually matters. I'm proud of myself for taking the risk of doing something scary like starting my I'm proud of myself every time I don't hit snooze more than twice.
Just twice, huh? That's pretty good. Yeah. Lots to be proud of then.
I'm proud of my parents. I'm proud of my parents for leading the way. I mean, my parents lived and modeled selfless behavior, and the rest of my family for that matter. My grandfather translated the Bible into Apache. My aunt started the largest Christian missionary organization in all of Brazil. I mean, I just have such a legacy of people that gave their lives for others. And for me, it was a frustrating journey to feel like here I've been raised with all of this good, and I somehow had lost my way, and I was focused on just getting for me. And I think the ability to combine those two elements and not feel like to be selfless you have to give everything away and you have to live like a monk, but you can actually have extraordinary success and you can help other people. That for me is something that I'm very honored to be a part of. I'm very honored to be considered a thought leader in this space, especially if you knew how ruthless I used to be. It's almost laughable that I'm now the poster child for it, but that's an honor for me. And at the end of the day, what I want to do is I want to help all these other people who are trapped in their business, right? Trapped in their industry, in their company, where they feel like they truly have to be this ruthless person to be successful, where they have to leave their values at the door, and show them that, hey, if me, a crazy converted commercial real estate broker, can do it, you can too. And so, I feel very blessed in the sense, and I'm very, very grateful for having the opportunity to be in the spot I'm in and to have had parents that were willing to model it and live it selflessly and believe in me and stick with me even when I, went the wrong direction.
Yeah, well said. And then what do you see your legacy as, or the kind of impact that you want to make with the time you have on this planet?
I want to change the world, John. I mean, my whole life,
yeah.
I want to prove that you don't have to be ruthless, even in a ruthless industry. And yet the trade-off is that, yeah, everybody knows you don't have to be ruthless, but then they feel like they got to be broke. And so I really want to change the conversation. I want to change the culture. I want to change how business is done. And there's a better way. And so what I want my legacy to be is a guy that loved and cared and gave of himself to everyone else, and played my small little part in helping to transform the industry. Because I think most business people are miserable. I know I was. It's not like it's fun to be ruthless. It just feels like it's kind of like you're in constant fight or flight mode. And so I think that there's an opportunity for people to be peaceful, be happy, be collaborative, to not be cutthroat, and actually create more success than they were being that other way. So if I could have even a small little impact on helping to shift the culture of the business world, I'd consider myself a success. But most importantly, I just want to have grandbabies that actually want to like hang out with grandpa and that think I'm cool and want to go to the park with me. And that would really be what my legacy is to have my family name. You know, I'm the first successful Kaiser, which is kind of in my family line. It's cool. I came so poor. Everybody else that carries the Kaiser name is very, very poor. So for me, it's being able to do something with a great name. I mean, I was just given this name at birth. It means emperor or king. And none of us were ever emperors or kings. And so for me to have a name like that and to be able to prove that having that name for selfless leadership and for helping others, to me, that's the greatest kinds of royalty the world's ever seen. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's, I'm jealous of your name, Emperor. Wow, that's cool. I think mine in German means just shoemaker, it must have been my relative. So I'm jealous of your Emperor name here. This is pretty.
I just got it, I didn't have a choice in the matter.
Luck of the draw, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
So anyway, cool. Well, thanks so much for coming by, Jonathan, and sharing some ideas. I really like this episode a lot. I think there's a big theme here, right, around service, and you're a living example of how powerful that is, not just for financial reasons or business, but also I think just for fulfillment and enjoyment in what you're doing. And I think you really told some stories around that and painted that picture really clearly here. So thanks for coming by, and we'll make sure we share this far and wide, my friends. So any final words, and then we'll wrap this up.
No, I just think there's a lot of people. One, thank you so much, John, for having me on the show. Again, I think it's an amazing show, and I'm honored to be a part of it. I think there's a lot of people out there that feel like I used to feel. They feel trapped. They feel like they're stuck in business, having to behave in ways that are inconsistent with what they really want to be. And if that's you, pick up a copy of my book. You don't have to be ruthless to win. Call us. We'd be more than happy to help. www.kaiser.com. And if you go to ruthlessbook.com, you'll be able to get a copy of my book. But again, we're here to serve. I'm not here to try to sell you something. If you need help developing this culture for yourself, call me. If you're interested in potentially being a part of what I'm building, I'm looking for leaders. I'm looking to build a global firm that transforms the industry. I'm looking for others that resonate with this message and say, I want to be a part of that kind of company. Call me. Let's see if we can build something around you. Because this is a message the world needs to hear, and more importantly, this is a message the world needs to embody, and that's what I'm looking for.
Beautiful. Yep. And we'll link up all those things, ruthlessbook.com, as well as the Kaiser website and some of your social profiles, so people can reach out to you if they hear this and it resonates and they want to connect. So we'll have all that linked up in the show notes here. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for coming by and sharing your wisdom.
I appreciate it. No, thank you for sharing your wisdom.
All right. Sounds good. And hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. Again, that was Jonathan Kaiser at Kaiser.com. Again, we'll link all that up below. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.